What happens when the most polished member of the Trump family confirms what the world has long suspected? At 43, Ivanka Trump's carefully curated life is taking a surprising turn. After stepping back post-White House, she re-emerged, sparking questions about her ambitions, her role in the Trump legacy, and her future. Why has Ivanka returned to the spotlight now? Is she paving the way for a political career or reshaping her identity on her terms? And how will her decisions impact the Trump family's future? Let's dive into her story. At 40, Ivanka Trump has finally confirmed what many have speculated about for years, and the revelation has sparked discussions far beyond her family name. Known as the most polished and composed member of the Trump family, Ivanka's life has been a mix of privilege, ambition, and carefully curated public appearances. But behind the glossy exterior lies a story that is far more complicated than it first appears. For decades, she has carried the weight of expectations, both from her father and the world, while trying to carve out a path of her own. Born on the 30th of October, 1981, Ivanka grew up in the opulence of Manhattan's Upper East Side. As the daughter of Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump, her life seemed destined for extravagance. From an early age, she was surrounded by the trappings of wealth: private schools, luxury vacations, and the media spotlight. While her brothers, Donald Jr. and Eric, often found themselves in the shadow of their father's larger-than-life persona, Ivanka quickly emerged as the family's golden child. Her early foray into modeling further cemented her public image. Walking runways for major designers and gracing the covers of fashion magazines, Ivanka was poised, elegant, and a sharp contrast to the brashness often associated with her family. But even then, there were whispers about her ambitions. Was she simply riding the wave of her family's name, or was she quietly plotting her own ascent? As she transitioned from modeling to business, those whispers grew louder. Ivanka joined the Trump Organization after graduating from the University of Pennsylvania in 2004, earning a degree in economics. Her role in the family business was presented as a natural progression, but it was also a strategic move. With her sharp intellect and polished demeanor, she became the public face of the Trump brand, bringing a level of sophistication that softened its often controversial edges. However, this transition wasn't without its challenges. Many questioned whether Ivanka's success in the business world was the result of her own capabilities or a product of nepotism. Critics pointed out that her privileged upbringing had given her opportunities unavailable to most, but Ivanka rarely addressed these accusations. Instead, she maintained a composed front, deflecting scrutiny with her signature poise. This ability to remain calm under pressure became one of her defining traits, earning her admiration even among her father's detractors. Yet, even as she thrived in the business world, there was an air of mystery about her. Unlike her father, who relished the spotlight, or her siblings, who often made headlines for their antics, Ivanka was more calculated in her approach. She carefully controlled her public image, presenting herself as a modern, working mother who could balance family, career, and public service with ease. Her best-selling book, Women Who Work, published in 2017, further reinforced this narrative, positioning her as an advocate for women's empowerment and professional success. But not everyone was convinced. Critics argued that her advocacy rang hollow, pointing to the controversies surrounding her family's business practices and her own involvement in her father's political ventures. Still, Ivanka managed to maintain an image of decorum, navigating the increasingly polarizing landscape with a level of grace that set her apart. The question on many people's minds, however, was whether this polished exterior was the whole story. Over the years, Ivanka had been accused of being complicit in her father's actions, a silent enabler who benefited from his controversial presidency while avoiding accountability. Her public statements often walked a fine line, attempting to appeal to both sides of the political spectrum. She spoke about issues like paid family leave and women's rights, but her critics argued that these efforts were little more than superficial gestures designed to distance her from her father's divisive image. As her father's presidency came to an end in 2021, Ivanka seemed to retreat from the public eye. While her brothers doubled down on their loyalty to Donald Trump's political ambitions, Ivanka and her husband, Jared Kushner, relocated to Florida, stepping back from the media spotlight. This move sparked even more speculation. Was Ivanka distancing herself from her father's legacy, or was this simply a strategic pause? And more importantly, what was her endgame? At 40, Ivanka Trump has reached a pivotal moment in her life. The carefully curated narrative she has built over decades is being re-examined, and the cracks are beginning to show. For years, she has balanced the expectations of her family with her own ambitions, walking a tightrope between loyalty and independence. But as she approaches this milestone age, it seems that she is finally ready to take control of her story. The year 2016 marked a turning point for Ivanka Trump. While she had spent years building a reputation as a successful businesswoman and author, her role began to shift dramatically as her father's political ambitions took center stage. When Donald Trump announced his candidacy for president, it wasn't just a moment that would alter the course of American politics. It was a moment that would forever reshape the lives of his family, particularly Ivanka. From the beginning, Ivanka was thrust into the spotlight as her father's most polished and relatable surrogate. Her poised demeanor, eloquent speeches, and ability to connect with key voter demographics made her an invaluable asset to the campaign. As critics dissected her father's divisive rhetoric, Ivanka presented herself as a moderating influence, someone who could soften his image and appeal to voters who might otherwise feel alienated. But stepping into such a public role came with its challenges. Ivanka was no stranger to scrutiny, yet the level of attention she received during the campaign was unprecedented. Every move she made, every word she spoke, was dissected by the media. While some applauded her efforts to promote issues like paid family leave and childcare policies, others questioned her motives. Was she genuinely passionate about these causes, or was she simply acting as a strategic buffer for her father's controversial platform? Her critics were quick to point out inconsistencies. For example, while Ivanka championed workplace equality and empowerment for women, her family's business practices were often at odds with these values. Reports emerged of low wages and poor working conditions at overseas factories producing Ivanka's clothing line. These revelations cast a shadow over her carefully curated image, leading to accusations of hypocrisy. Despite the controversies, Ivanka's influence only grew during her father's presidency. When Donald Trump was elected in November 2016, Ivanka's role transitioned from campaign surrogate to senior advisor. Alongside her husband, Jared Kushner, she took on an official position in the White House, a move that sparked intense debate. Critics accused her of benefiting from nepotism, while supporters argued that she brought a level of professionalism and stability to the administration. As a senior advisor, Ivanka focused on issues like workforce development, women's economic empowerment, and paid family leave. Her initiatives were often praised for their intent, but they were not without their detractors. Many questioned whether her efforts were truly impactful or merely symbolic. The tension between her public advocacy and the administration's policies became a recurring theme throughout her tenure. One of the most significant controversies during this time was Ivanka's use of a private email account for government business. The revelation, which emerged in 2018, drew immediate comparisons to the controversy surrounding Hillary Clinton's emails during the 2016 election. While Ivanka defended her actions, stating that no classified information was involved, the incident fueled accusations of hypocrisy and double standards. Throughout her time in the White House, Ivanka walked a delicate line. On one hand, she was seen as a key player in her father's administration, someone who wielded significant influence behind the scenes. On the other hand, she worked tirelessly to maintain her image as a progressive, independent figure. This balancing act was not without its costs. By aligning herself so closely with her father's presidency, she became a lightning rod for criticism, and her personal brand suffered as a result. As the Trump presidency continued, so did the speculation about Ivanka's future. Many believed she was positioning herself for a political career of her own, perhaps even eyeing the possibility of becoming the first female president. Her speeches at events like the Republican National Convention seemed to hint at greater ambitions, with carefully crafted messages that appealed to a broad audience. But for all the speculation, Ivanka remained non-committal about her political aspirations. When asked about her future plans, she often deflected, emphasizing her commitment to her family and current responsibilities. This reluctance to make definitive statements only fueled the public's curiosity. Was she genuinely undecided, or was she strategically keeping her options open? By the time Donald Trump's presidency ended in January 2021, Ivanka's role in the administration had become one of the most debated aspects of his legacy. For some, she was a trailblazer who brought important issues to the forefront. For others, she was a symbol of privilege and entitlement, someone who used her position to further her own interests. In the years following her departure from the White House, Ivanka's public presence began to wane. She and Jared Kushner relocated to Miami, where they reportedly focused on raising their 3 children and pursuing private business ventures. This move marked a significant shift for Ivanka, who had spent much of her adult life in the public eye. Her decision to step back from politics, at least temporarily, raised questions about her long-term goals. Was this a retreat or simply a recalibration? Despite her lower profile, Ivanka remained a subject of fascination. Her influence, both within her family and in the broader political landscape, was undeniable. As she turned 40, the world continued to watch, waiting for her next move. Would she re-enter the political arena, or would she choose a different path entirely? One thing was clear: Ivanka Trump was not done writing her story. As Ivanka Trump settled into life after the White House, speculation about her next steps intensified. For someone who had spent years at the center of both business and politics, her retreat into a quieter existence felt almost out of character. But this shift was not without reason. The scrutiny she faced during her father's presidency had left a lasting impact, both on her public image and her personal priorities. In the years immediately following the Trump administration, Ivanka's actions suggested a deliberate effort to distance herself from the controversies that had defined her father's tenure. While Donald Trump remained vocal in the political arena, continuing to rally his base and hint at future campaigns, Ivanka maintained a noticeably lower profile. Unlike her brothers, Donald Jr. and Eric, who actively embraced their roles as their father's staunch defenders, Ivanka seemed to take a different approach. Her move to Miami, where she and Jared Kushner purchased a property on the exclusive Indian Creek Island, often referred to as the billionaire's bunker, symbolized this shift. The couple's decision to relocate away from the political epicenter of Washington, D.C., was seen by many as a sign that Ivanka was prioritizing her family and personal life over public ambitions. For a time, it appeared that she was content to focus on raising her 3 children, Arabella, Joseph, and Theodore, while stepping back from the limelight. But even as she retreated from the public eye, questions lingered. Was this truly the end of Ivanka's political aspirations, or was she simply recalibrating her strategy? Those who had followed her career closely were skeptical. After all, Ivanka had spent years positioning herself as a polished modern leader, someone who could transcend the polarizing reputation of the Trump brand. It seemed unlikely that she would abandon this carefully constructed image entirely. Behind the scenes, Ivanka's activities hinted at a more nuanced reality. Reports emerged of her involvement in philanthropic efforts, those focused on child development and education. These initiatives, while quieter than her previous roles, allowed her to continue influencing public discourse without the same level of scrutiny. However, critics were quick to point out that these efforts often lacked transparency, fueling speculation about her true intentions. Meanwhile, her relationship with her father also became a topic of interest. While the Trump family has long presented a united front, insiders suggested that Ivanka's decision to step back from politics had created subtle tensions within the family dynamic. Donald Trump, known for his larger-than-life personality and high expectations for his children, reportedly hoped that Ivanka would continue to play a prominent role in his political endeavors. Her reluctance to do so, coupled with her move to Florida, was seen by some as a quiet act of independence. This perceived distance between Ivanka and her father became more apparent as Donald Trump hinted at another presidential run. While her brothers eagerly championed his efforts, Ivanka's involvement remained minimal. She was notably absent from key political events, including campaign rallies and public endorsements. This absence did not go unnoticed, sparking widespread speculation about her future within the Trump political machine. For Ivanka, this period of introspection seemed to reflect a broader desire to redefine her identity. Throughout her career, she had been many things: a model, a business executive, a senior advisor, and a public figure. Each role had been shaped to some extent by her association with her father and the expectations placed upon her as a member of the Trump family. But as she turned 40, Ivanka appeared to be searching for a path that was uniquely her own. The public's fascination with Ivanka during this time was fueled by her ability to remain both accessible and elusive. On social media, she shared glimpses of her family life, posting photos of her children and their activities. Yet these moments were carefully curated, offering just enough to keep her followers engaged while maintaining a sense of privacy. This duality, the balance between public and private, became a defining feature of her post-White House life. At the same time, Ivanka's name continued to surface in discussions about the Trump legacy. Her role in the administration, particularly her influence on policies related to women and families, was both praised and criticized. Supporters viewed her as a trailblazer who had brought important issues to the forefront, while detractors saw her as emblematic of the privilege and nepotism that had characterized the Trump presidency. This duality extended to her business ventures as well. While her clothing and lifestyle brand had been shuttered in 2018, Ivanka's name remained synonymous with luxury and influence. Even without an active brand, she continued to benefit from the connections and opportunities afforded by her status. For many, this highlighted the enduring power of the Trump name, even as its reputation faced ongoing challenges. As Ivanka navigated this complex landscape, one thing became clear. Her journey was far from over. While her father's political career remained a dominant force, Ivanka was carving out a narrative that was distinct from his. Whether through philanthropy, business, or a potential return to public service, she was laying the groundwork for the next chapter of her life. What that chapter would entail, however, remained a subject of intense speculation. For the public, the question wasn't just what Ivanka would do next, it was how her choices would shape the Trump family legacy. As the most polished and poised member of the family, Ivanka had always been seen as its most promising figure. But with that promise came pressure. And as she navigated her 40s, the weight of those expectations loomed larger than ever. Ivanka Trump's decision to step back from politics in the immediate aftermath of her father's presidency was a defining moment, signaling a shift that surprised many. She had been a key figure during Donald Trump's administration, not just as a senior advisor, but as someone viewed by many as the face of a more polished, professional version of the Trump family. Her retreat to Miami and her focus on her children and private life created the impression that Ivanka was ready to leave the political world behind for good. But in recent months, those assumptions have started to unravel. Despite her previous declarations about stepping away from politics, Ivanka has quietly begun reappearing in political circles, albeit in a more understated way than her brothers, Donald Jr. and Eric. While her father continues to dominate headlines with his bold rhetoric and rallies, Ivanka's recent public appearances have been more calculated and carefully curated. This reemergence has reignited questions about her true intentions. Is she positioning herself for a potential comeback, or is she simply supporting her father in his continued efforts? Her presence at key pre-inauguration events in late 2024 sparked widespread speculation. Photos of Ivanka standing alongside her father, brothers, and prominent figures like podcaster Joe Rogan circulated quickly on social media. While Ivanka didn't deliver any speeches, her involvement in such high-profile events hinted at a shift in her priorities. Some observers saw this as an acknowledgement of her enduring influence within the Trump brand, even if she wasn't actively seeking the spotlight. Adding to the intrigue, Ivanka's recent social media posts have taken on a noticeably different tone. In a heartfelt Instagram post just days before her father's second inauguration, she shared a prayer for him, asking for strength, wisdom, compassion, unity, and peace as he began his new term. This public display of support for her father stood in contrast to her earlier efforts to maintain distance from his political ventures. It suggested a reconciliation of sorts, not just with her father, but perhaps with the role she had once played in shaping his presidency. These actions have led many to wonder whether Ivanka's initial retreat from politics was a temporary pause rather than a permanent departure. Some political analysts argue that her calculated approach may be part of a longer-term strategy. By stepping away during the tumultuous aftermath of her father's presidency, she avoided much of the fallout and controversy that followed. Now, with the political climate shifting and her father reclaiming the presidency, Ivanka may see an opportunity to re-establish herself on her own terms. However, her reemergence hasn't been without its challenges. Critics have pointed to the contradictions in her actions, questioning whether her apparent pivot back into the public eye undermines her earlier statements about focusing on her family. Others have argued that her involvement in her father's political events suggests she is still deeply tied to the Trump legacy, even if she has tried to distance herself at times. Ivanka's relationship with her father remains a central focus of these discussions. While their bond has always been a cornerstone of her public image, there are subtle signs that their dynamic has evolved. During the first Trump presidency, Ivanka was frequently described as one of his closest confidants, a trusted advisor whose opinions carried significant weight. But as her role shifted in the years following his presidency, so too did the public's perception of their relationship. Insiders suggest that Ivanka's decision to step back from an active political role was met with mixed feelings within the Trump family. Her father, known for his unwavering loyalty to those who support him, reportedly hoped that Ivanka would continue to be a visible figure in his political endeavors. Her decision to prioritize her family and pursue a quieter life in Florida may have created subtle tensions, especially as her brothers took on more prominent roles in defending and promoting the Trump brand. Yet, despite these potential tensions, Ivanka's recent actions indicate that she remains deeply connected to her family's legacy. Her appearances alongside her father and her public statements of support suggest that she is carefully navigating the balance between her personal ambitions and the expectations placed upon her as a Trump. This balancing act is emblematic of Ivanka's broader journey, a journey that has often been defined by her ability to adapt and reinvent herself in the face of changing circumstances. As Ivanka approaches her mid-40s, the question of her next move looms larger than ever. Will she continue to align herself with her father's political ventures, or will she carve out a new path that allows her to step out of his shadow? Some speculate that Ivanka's involvement in recent events could be a precursor to her own political aspirations. Others believe that she is simply playing a supportive role, content to let her father and brothers take center stage. What's clear is that Ivanka Trump remains a figure of immense interest and influence. Her ability to navigate the complexities of her family's legacy while maintaining her own identity has been a defining feature of her public life. Whether she chooses to stay in the background or step back into the spotlight, her decisions will undoubtedly shape not only her future, but also the broader narrative of the Trump family's place in history. As Ivanka Trump looks ahead, one thing is certain: the choices she makes now will have far-reaching implications, not just for her, but for the Trump family's legacy. Over the years, she has proven to be a master of reinvention, navigating the complexities of business, politics, and public scrutiny with a level of poise that few could manage. But at 43, Ivanka finds herself at a crossroads, with the world closely watching her every move. Her recent reemergence in political circles has reignited speculation about her ambitions. While she has previously stated her intention to focus on her family, her actions suggest a more nuanced reality. Attending high-profile events alongside her father and brothers has fueled rumors that Ivanka is laying the groundwork for a return to public life. Whether as a political figure, a business leader, or a philanthropist, the possibilities for her future seem endless, but also fraught with challenges. One of the biggest questions surrounding Ivanka is whether she will pursue a political career of her own. Throughout her father's presidency, she was often regarded as a potential candidate for higher office, with some even speculating that she could one day become the first female president of the United States. Her speeches at events like the Republican National Convention showcased her ability to connect with diverse audiences, and her advocacy for issues like paid family leave gave her a platform distinct from her father's polarizing rhetoric. However, the road to a successful political career would be far from straightforward. Ivanka's association with her father's administration, while a source of strength for some supporters, remains a point of contention for many Americans. Critics argue that her role in the White House, particularly as a senior advisor, makes her complicit in the administration's controversial policies and decisions. Overcoming this perception would require a delicate balance, acknowledging her past while carving out a vision for the future that feels authentic and independent. For now, Ivanka seems content to keep her options open. Her recent philanthropic efforts, particularly in areas related to child development and education, have allowed her to maintain a presence in public discourse without the intensity of political scrutiny. These initiatives, while quieter than her previous roles, hint at a broader strategy, staying relevant while avoiding the pitfalls of overexposure. At the same time, her personal life continues to play a significant role in shaping her public image. Ivanka's devotion to her family, her husband Jared Kushner, and their 3 children remains a central theme in her narrative. Social media posts showcasing family activities, charitable endeavors, and glimpses of her life in Miami serve to humanize her, offering a counterbalance to the high-profile world she has always inhabited. Yet even in her quieter moments, Ivanka's connection to the Trump brand is impossible to ignore. Her last name carries immense weight, both as a symbol of power and as a lightning rod for controversy. Whether she chooses to embrace this legacy or redefine it entirely is a decision that will shape not only her future, but also the broader perception of the Trump family's place in history. This balancing act between loyalty to her family and her own ambitions has been a recurring theme throughout Ivanka's life. From her early days as a model to her role as a business executive and later as a political figure, she has consistently walked the fine line between independence and expectation. Now, as she navigates her 40s, that line has never been more pronounced. The public's fascination with Ivanka lies not just in what she has done, but in what she represents. To some, she is a symbol of privilege and opportunity, someone who has benefited from her family's name while cultivating an image of poise and professionalism. To others, she is a figure of contradiction, someone whose advocacy for progressive causes often clashes with her actions and associations. This duality has made her one of the most intriguing and polarizing figures of her generation. As Ivanka contemplates her next move, the stakes are higher than ever. Her decisions will not only define her legacy, but also influence the trajectory of the Trump family's influence in the years to come. Will she step into a more prominent role, perhaps even pursuing elected office? Or will she choose a quieter path, focusing on her family and philanthropic endeavors? The possibilities are endless, but the answers remain elusive. For the Trump family, Ivanka's journey is emblematic of a larger question. How does a family so deeply entrenched in the world of politics and business evolve in a changing landscape? Ivanka's choices will likely serve as a blueprint for the next generation of Trumps, setting the tone for how the family navigates its legacy in the years to come. As the world watches, one thing is clear: Ivanka Trump is far from making an impact. Whether she continues to operate behind the scenes or steps back into the spotlight, her story is still unfolding. And as it does, it will undoubtedly shape not just her future, but the narrative of one of the most influential and controversial families in modern history. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.